Hello again, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Grog Pod Roguelike podcast, where on each one of these recordings we deep dive into the gnomish minds of roguelike games to find the sorcerer deep underground, and then rank that sorcerer against all the other games that we've played at the end of our season of roguing madness. I am your highly voxelized host of the podcast, Scott Berger, and with me in the other corners of our split screen mayhem are my co-hosts.
This is Will, your wizard casting fireball nonstop.
And me, Andrew Hirschman, a shambling undead, a shadow of a living sentient human.
And me, Colin, chip, I'm a gnome.
This week we are playing our listener requested episode and Minecraft Get Good Edition Barony, released June 23rd, 2015, almost coming in on that 10-year anniversary. You can find this on PC and, interestingly enough, on the Nintendo Switch. This is a game developed and published by Turning Wheel Games, 3 full-time developers who work together remotely from Washington, Tennessee, and Australia. Your average player of Barony has about 36 hours of game time in it, and Barony rolls in on our data set of popularity at the number 132 most popular roguelike game with 7,218 total reviews. Andrew, you've just discovered a scroll labeled one-sentence description of Barony. What does it say?
All right. Well, I'm still feeling a little bit rough, a little sick. Definitely got that head cold, brain fog going on, but I'm gonna give him my best shot. In a not too distant future, a lone researcher travels space and time and receives a distress signal, after which some interstellar, you're on a planet, you see, and but when you die, you come back, you return for an eternal amount of time. All right, that bit is great. I was hoping for some audible laughter that
I don't know where you're going with this.
He was describing Returnal for some
Where's
reason.
where's the Discord clapping button?
Anyway, all right. Well, next. Okay, moving on. Check it out. So the game that we're reviewing, Barony, which it certainly is not devoid of content and experience. It is a procedurally generated dungeon crawler. You got your different levels of dungeon. They're very well procedurally generated, and they're populated by classic Dungeons and Dragons types of creatures. And through, there are many trials and tribulations and lots of options and things, classes that you pick a class, you pick a build, you go through, you level up, you loot, and you try to prevail over the dungeon. And if you do, you certainly have my respect as a gamer. It is quite the challenge. Barony.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And it is so named.
Yes.
For its storyline, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get into it right now. Bam, how about that?
I want to first get into it before we even start getting into it. The scroll at the beginning, the very first thing that you see in the game that explains the story, it moves, it slowly reads the text and moves it while it reads it. And I found that to be an extremely off-putting start to the game.
What? Like, I don't even remember that.
The text is moving from left to right while it individually prints out words.
Right.
And it's in like ASCII font and it moves, and I'm just like, I can't read this. And it's so slow, and it only lets you skip the whole thing or watch it all the way in. So I skipped the whole thing. So I don't know what happens in the story.
I feel like that's a throwback to like your
I don't care. There's certain things that we did in the past that because we didn't have the like computer skills for it, and there are things that you don't need to do anymore now.
Well, you can. Sorry, I'm watching it right now. You can just wait till it all prints out, and then you can read it. But I get what you're saying.
I read very fast, and that scrolled so slow.
A little off-putting, but I tend to agree. I think it's probably a throwback to. I think it's trying to warn you.
Does this game have a story? I'm not sure.
The way the text like rolls and moves, it's trying to foreshadow the presence of deadly boulders, deadly boulder traps that are ever present throughout this game.
With those, you can at least kind of hear them coming a little bit.
Well, I for one thought the introduction was I was not personal taste was not perturbed by the text. The text really got me excited to play this game, and it evoked this very Diablo 1 type of mystery and excitement about, oh, I'm gonna venture forth into the forbidden depths of this dungeon, of this place, in search of the Baron, the ghost, the evil ghost of the Baron that was entombed at the bottom of this dungeon. And I thought it was quite nice.
Well, it sounded like you were
initial gameplay experience didn't live up to that.
Well, it sounded like you were trying to get something in when we all dogpiled in at the same time.
Oh, it's just it's funny that we're starting with the list of grievances at the very first thing that appears on the screen, and I have a feeling that this is just going to be perhaps a theme.
I only took 2 notes on this game, and the first one I don't even normally take notes on games, but I opened up a thing to write down. Text scrolling is awful because it annoyed me so much, and it's literally the first thing you see when you start the game.
This is why the listeners requested us to review this. I thought the intro cinematic, which I guess is just like there's just like four different artistic screens that are, they're very charmingly done in a nice little art style of kind of telling the story of that. There once was a town named Hamlet, and it's a very colorful, cute little standard medieval town. And then Baron Herx rose to power, and then the next screen is this oppressive overlord standing over the grimacing miners of the town who have been such enslaved. But I guess they get mad and then bury the Baron down in the mines. But then skeletons and other demons start coming out of those mines and start attacking the villagers. I think like the art style of this little intro cinematic has a lot of charm to it, and I feel like there's a lot of that kind of charm that comes in through the other aspects of the game. So I think it kind of sets the charm tone pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, it's definitely a charming game, which thank God for that, because if it weren't for all that charm, I think it would have chased me off pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, after that intro cinematic, it is a drop right in and go get 'em, Tiger experience. There is no meta progression as far as I can tell. There's no like meta stuff that you're unlocking along the way. It is just almost arcade mode. You just drop in, you're good to go, and you drop in to your first and probably the biome that you're going to see the most playing this game, the mines, which I don't know. So we all individually got past the mines, right?
With the help of cheats, yes.
Yeah.
We got to like the third biome, I believe.
Well, yeah, co-op we did. I don't think I ever got past the first level of the second biome by myself ever.
Oh. No, yeah, I think I got to the 9th, I want to say, and then I took some haunted castle path, and the haunted castle has a new novel way to kill you that I absolutely was bamboozled by.
Well, did you get good?
And just as a quick aside here, every time you die and you want to, or every time you want to leave the game and quit, there's some kind of a text which is something like, "Oh, you mad? Why not get good?" or something that's like really trying to troll you, I guess.
I hear you.
What was it like? Mad cause bad, and then you had to click get good to quit or something?
Well, they're all kind of like that. It's like, if you quit, I'm gonna tell your mother you said a bad word, and then your quit button turns to poop, or your return to game option is no, please don't say that. And like I get it. I get like the attempt at the humor, and like there were some of them that I was like, and then others I was just like, I didn't even really read the text at all. I was just like clicking the button to escape.
I'm gonna go ahead and test it right now if the game opens. Let's see what random message we get. Which of course this is a throwback to when mini games was a tradition.
The smallest of
in
nitpicks.
games. All right, quit. Did the little goblins hurt your feelings? Yes, quit.
There you go. I mean, I feel like,
but
yeah,
I hear you, Will. It's that's the last thing you want to see. It's like with Star of Providence. I got a tooltip after a tough round, and it was like, hey, don't forget to dodge the bullets. I'm like, oh, you friggin'
No, that one doesn't bother me so much. It's specifically these like really like the 12-year-old humor like jokes like the mother bad word poop, like come on. I don't know.
Do you think
I think it's safe to assume that the developer who wrote these messages was not the one from Washington, because come on, we Washingtonians, we're more polite than that. Well, at least we'll
blame it on the Aussies. Yeah, I think like this, and especially if this game's aesthetic is, I mean, I was kind of joking at the beginning, Minecraft Get Good Edition, but like from across the room, like you really couldn't tell if this was Minecraft at first glance, because it is so highly voxelized. And I imagine that aspect of like charm and, or the aesthetic that they're going for is trying to grab some of that Minecraft audience. And I could totally see like some people who bounce off of Minecraft for like, yeah, I don't want to base build. I just want to like go into dungeons and punch monsters. Like this is that. And this is just like taking like that aspect out and just plopped it into I think like a lot of traditional roguelike aspects that we have not really covered so much here. Maybe vaguely with Tales of Maj'Al, but stuff like identification scrolls and hunger meters and things like that, like they're all traditional roguelike D&D tropes that like they're not like super common in Minecraft per se, but well, I guess Minecraft has a hunger meter. Anyway, what I think I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I think some of that aesthetic and what they're going for is trying to pull in that Minecraft audience. And I think you see it with like the online community as well. Like there's a super active YouTube community around this game that like I think I can also understand from the aspect of online play and social aspect being the bigger draw for this than solo play.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this, because at the top of my list of notes about this game is why not just play Minecraft?
Great question. And actually, I played this game in the presence of other people, and multiple times people said, "Oh, you're playing Minecraft." I was like, well, actually,
I think this is a. I mean, it has a surface similarity to Minecraft, but I don't think beyond the visuals that it's the same at all.
I would even argue, if you want to get real pedantic,
it's like, oh, it's 3-dimensional and you have a sword and you
can't jump.
The end.
No, yeah, exactly. It's a 1Z level Minecraft dungeon explorer.
No, but
I mean,
that's
like saying, in terms of like when I'm playing Minecraft, like the same sort of like things in my brain are triggering as in this game, except for Minecraft has a million times more content and more Z levels and more interesting things that and this is just like you're running through the mines, smacking a creeper, sort of like
this thing dynamic. Has one thing in common with Minecraft and many things in common with a bunch of other games. I don't think it's more like Minecraft than pretty much any other 2D top-down game where you're running around and it's like real time. Like it's only got the fact that it's block graphics. You can't jump, you can't explore. Food is not that big of a thing. It doesn't really matter that much.
I can think of something.
You can't farm, you can't craft.
Right, exactly. It's got fewer features. That's what I was trying to say. Exactly. Fewer features, like, fewer Z levels.
The vibe of it is entirely different. Like I don't think it's even useful to compare them. They're visually similar, and that's it. That's like saying, oh, this game has cartoon graphics, therefore it's the same as a different game.
I'm saying that like the experience of playing it.
Your experience is wrong.
You're turning a corner and there's a monster there. You shoot it. You're in Minecraft. You're doing the same. You turn a corner. There's a Frankenstein, or I don't remember what the creatures are called. The Frankenstein creature, but a zombie. He's coming at you and you're smacking.
Okay, you're in the original Doom. You turn the corner and there's a monster and you shoot it. The original Doom is more like this game than Minecraft.
I think one thing for me that leapt out as far as like I think Colin is right in that there's like a 10-second visual similarity between this and Minecraft, and then like you watch it for longer than that, you're like, oh yeah, this is not Minecraft. because I think Minecraft does melee combat a million times better than this. Uh,
Yeah,
and I don't like, I don't even remember when was the last time we played Minecraft, like 15 years ago or something. Like we all
Oh, I
like,
mean, I put in like 100 or something hours with people during the pandemic.
oh, okay.
More than 100. Many hours.
So Colin, as someone who's played Minecraft more recently, is melee combat in Minecraft like a worthwhile avenue to explore, or is it just like just shoot everyone from range like
I
this
mean,
game?
like when I played it, I got good armor, and it's not it's not a main focus of the game. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, cool, there's a thing, and you're like, maybe it'll hit me. Like I don't feel scared of things anymore. Like Minecraft is about exploring and seeing cool things and building cool things. Like if you die, like I have died in that Minecraft server that we have like 2 times in the last 50 hours.
Hmm.
I don't think that's true for Barony. Like I'm pretty sure I've died more recently than 50 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
50
think that
seconds.
just the way that you engage in combat, like Minecraft doesn't it maybe has a better melee system, but it's not a focus of it. Like
Mhm.
it's just a thing that they added in to make sure that you had it.
Well, so critically, Barony is, this very traditional fantasy roguelike experience wherein, of course, at the very beginning, is when you start a run, you create your character and you've got all these different classes. There's some pretty unique classes. But all the standard Dungeons and Dragons fare is present. And when it comes to actually fighting creatures and outputting damage, that major interaction with the game world, your main choices are magic, traditional ranged weapons, and melee weapons. And then maybe as a 4, you could say like, conjuring and like, recruiting followers and things. But like 3 main types of weapons: magic, range, and melee. And 1/3 of the combat in this game is pretty bad. And I'm kind of shocked at how bad it is. And perhaps there's some subtleties that I'm missing. I have a vague recollection of there being a tutorial about, like, there was something about dodging maybe that I
No, it's just
forgot
the shield
about.
timing. It's like they all attack at the same interval,
Shield
and you just have to
timing.
like shield
Okay.
the thing and then hit them, then shield, then hit, and they all have a slightly different
Yeah.
rate at which they do that.
And this is going to sound maybe wild, but like for my money, I don't think Eldritch is a better game, but I think Eldritch somehow has better melee combat. And that's like, that's pretty wild. And that's almost like by accident that it's better.
So I think that they made one single design choice that really is unfun. They made it so that you move backwards much slower than you move forwards, which means that you can't do the like jump around kite. Also, you can't jump. So you can't do the thing where you're like strafing around. And maybe that like we could get used to it, but it deeply like that's not how I expect WASD to work in a game. So every time I'm like trying to kite backwards, melee hit, and I'm like, I'm so slow, I just get creamed by this spider or whatever. It's like, well, the answer would be like hit, run away, do something, like have your friends magic blasted or something. And like the idea of turning around and running from an enemy as part of like the act of still combating it, like my brain was definitely either like you're fighting or you're running away.
And
this is like you must run away to continue to fight, which is very weird.
That is counterintuitive, definitely. And I tried to embrace that design choice, that system, by playing the ninja. And so this game is surprisingly twitchy. Like in order to play the ninja, you need to sneak up, attack. You then need to do a 180 as quickly as possible and run away as fast as possible. And like doing that consistent was tricky, and it was admittedly satisfying when I was able to do it correctly. But it's just I don't think the melee is quite there. I was expecting something like Mountain Blade. I was expecting something like Chivalry. I was expecting something like Pirates versus Vikings versus Knights. Like there. And initially I thought, okay, this is going to be a lot of shield gameplay. And so I went into my first run with a shield build, and just the timing against the starting enemy, the skeleton, is it's so small. Like the window to block and then unblock an attack.
And they do damage to you through the shield too. So they are chipping away at you, even if you're like getting the timing wrong.
And it's not, again, it's not necessarily an issue of like the game's too hard. Like it's fine for the starting enemies to do a lot of damage, but like give me an opportunity to like get a hit in. Yeah, I was really surprised by that.
I think a game that does, like, I was trying to think what game does melee combat well, and yeah, I think you like
just
pointed
named
out like
Chivalry.
but yeah, there's
The
those,
cream of the crop.
but like it's not like it doesn't feel like a common experience that like first person melee combat is done well, like generally. Like it seems like a very hard problem to solve, or it's like, you know, it's like your Minecraft, like very basic. You run up to a spider and you're just like bap 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 attacking it and like circle strafing around and like that's it. And then yeah, like, you know, the 500 level stuff of like chivalry where you have like your gimbal animations of the arm and you're ducking under cover and all that, and like it's
and different directional attacks and what have you.
I think a game that like what I was looking for from melee combat for this, and admittedly like Barony is like almost 10 years old, and this game that I'm about to mention just came out, but does melee combat much better, is Mortal Sin. It's a very aesthetic.
Oh yeah, sure.
Aesthetically interesting. But anyway, like
I've seen it.
It has like relatively simple melee combat. It has like, you know, simple RPG style mechanics and loot swapping. Like I had made the mistake of playing a little bit of that before this, and then I was like always comparing my melee experience in Barony to that, of like, man, you know, it'd be like really good if I could like hit the enemy and not die before I can like punch him.
And just even simple things like, okay, maybe you can outrange them and it's a matter of managing your distance between them. Like there's like none of that. There's no ability, as you were saying, Colin, like to get around the enemy and like flank them. Pardon me, there are flankings. Like if you attack an enemy that's like engaged with one of your allies, like you do extra damage, but like it's a huge miss, and the fact that it hasn't been addressed,
you can't
I think
like
is
counter something. Like it'd be great
like
if
blocking
they swing at you and you you block 100%. At exactly the right point.
Parrying,
sure.
Yeah. Right,
even if the melee was just like boring, like what you're describing with Minecraft, Scott, which I've barely even played Minecraft, so I don't know, but like boring would have been acceptable. And again, my experience of playing the ninja was at times pretty fun, because I wasn't engaging so much with that not great melee system, because I was having to with the stealth, I was having to engage in this with the stealth system, which works okay in my opinion. And it's very possible, you know, I've only played this game for maybe 6-7 hours, so perhaps I am failing to see the subtleties of these melee systems, and I'm just lousy at it. But I feel like if that is in fact the case, and that I'm missing out on like YouTube tutorials that I need to watch, if there are mandatory YouTube tutorials or like extra reps you need to get in to make the melee fun.
I mean,
that's
I went in,
not a great design setup.
I went in, like, I was having problems, so I went into the Barony Discord, and everyone there was super friendly. And I was asking, like, hey, I'm having some problem with, you know, understanding the melee system. And they were like, yeah, just, you know, observe the attack patterns of the enemies. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what? Attack patterns? It's like, you know, the first level, you know, you have rats, skeletons, and spiders, or the first biome. And, you know, a rat will just like squeak up to you, and it will just like attack nonstop. And I'm just like, and I've put, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 hours over all the Dark Souls games. I'm like waiting for the attack pattern. Where do I dodge roll out? Where's the opening here? And
totally.
And all the starting classes, barbarian, warrior, rogue, cleric, merchant, wizard, etc., have difficulty tiers associated with them. The warrior, who starts with a spear and a shield, is listed as a beginner difficulty. So I thought, that's for me. I'm a beginner mode. I'm going to try that. I don't think I ever got past the first level with the warrior.
Here's a question. Does the spear have noticeably longer range than the other melee weapons? I
didn't really notice it, but again, I might just be in the mad because bad category. What's interesting under this listing here, Will, would you agree that the wizard is difficulty level hard?
Its difficulty level is easy mode for sure. It's the best class at least, okay, I looked at a bunch of tier lists, and like there's some disagreement about if it's A or S tier, but like it's up there.
Yeah, maybe let's move on to some more positive things. Magic. So again, 33% of the combat, melee combat, is a write-off. All right, so that's done. Moving on. Hey, spellcasting. That's pretty fun. There's lots of neat, fun voxel effects happening. The feedback is good. When you kill enemies, they explode in exciting ways, and like the sound effects are cute, and it's all working together to give you that what is, to me at least, comparable to like a good FPS experience. Like you have these weapons and they feel powerful, and you feel like you have agency in the world. And I only played with the wizard seriously like today, and I was having a pretty good time with it. But you all had more experience with it because you were kind of running exclusively wizards, eh?
100% wizards. After I did realize it's the best class by far, or at least for like, I don't have the DLC unlocked, so there's a lot of the other better classes. But unfortunately, with the magic, I think at one point I got to level 21. So I had all the spells, level 100 of the casting, I think. So you get the end spell is domination to make someone, your bitch essentially, and tell them what to do. but across all the spells, there's nothing that gives you more bang for your buck than just the very first spell you get, which is fireball. Hey, you can slow your enemy down. Oh, you can put them to sleep. Why the hell would I want to do that? I want them dead. I want the experience. I want to get the loot. Like, there's no point in like doing anything other than killing them, and that requires doing maximum damage. Now, some things do have like resistances, but like, yeah, just fucking fireball everything. And
the quintessential D&D experience.
Yeah, and then once you run out of mana, that's why you have the magic staff to just zap them with whatever you need to. So it's just like that's the combo, I guess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that right out of the gate, you with that class are given a dominant strategy. It's like, well, here's the best spell you could ever want. Like, no need to experiment or like have fun or engage with like any of the spell progression. That is unfortunate to hear.
There's no AoE. There's all the spells are like just like the arrows essentially. They fly out and they hit a single target. And they like, it'd be cool if like, hey, here's your area of effect one, and oh, here's the one that fires in like a beam, like a flamethrower in front of you, or like the one that shoots or area around you, or a shield that like. But none of that.
Totally. Right.
None of that.
Well, no, not true, because Colin's healer class was AoE.
Oh yeah,
but that's only
healing spell. You're right. Yeah.
Got him.
No, you got me good there.
That's not an attack spell. That's not the same.
Yeah, no, totally. I appreciate the joke, Scott. That it's like, ironically, the healing spell has the AoE, whereas that's normally associated with doing damage primarily, or at least that's the first thing that comes to mind, I should say. Sorry, I should clarify. I don't know if I played as the Mystic, I think, or somebody who has like, it's like spells but also a hand crossbow. So I don't think the Arcanist. I don't believe I played the
Arsonist
specifically. The Arsonist, the Arcanist. Anyway, so yeah, but what? Yeah, interesting. But
yeah, I mean, I played
Miles more engaging, and also you feel since when you're playing with magic, you're not just getting pounded into the dirt in your first fight. So that automatically makes it a more enjoyable experience right out of the gate.
Well, range specifically, because the Arcanist they have a sword, they have a crossbow with fire bolts that you can launch at people. They have a magic staff that can like open stuff, and they have some spell books. So a couple things that I like about this game. Andrew, you're mentioning like the magic system. There's like an interesting aspect of like when you get like magic tomes off of the ground, if your intelligence level is low enough that you can't learn it, you can still cast from it, which is neat. And the Arcanist, I think, well, like you can learn the 2 spell books you start with, but like your intelligence might not be high enough for all of the spells, but you can still cast them, which is cool.
Yeah, and some of the spells are, as you say, there are spells that you memorize, and then there are spells that are being cast from like spell focuses. So like if you have the book, as you said, or if you have a magical staff, and that whole system is something that you see in other games. I feel like it was well presented and like functional and like pretty easy to grok. Like which spells are coming from what sources, and having to manage those different items. Like, for example, the staffs will like break down at a certain point, and It's pretty neato, I think.
The other thing that I really like about this game is identification systems. And this is something that I really hate about most traditional roguelikes is like you pick up a thing, it's like, this is an unidentified ring. And in order to identify, and like to some extent Diablo also, like in order to identify, you have to use a scroll of identify on it. Bing! Oh, you've discovered this is trash. Great. Waste of my time. But instead you have like an appraisal skill that's like you pick it up and in your backpack, a little magnifying glass will just like rub over it, be like, ah, yes, I've discovered this is a cursed ring. Great, throw in the trash. But like I don't have to spend an action to do that. And like while I'm doing that, it's like passively upgrading the skill. And it was
totally
fun to have Colin as like our dedicated
identifier man.
Yeah, identifier man.
Your class, you're playing like one of the American pickers. You're just like grabbing all the trash and like looking at it through like one of those little eye monocular things.
I got a guy.
So I will say that like first of all, I think that I'm sure we'll get into it, but I thought the multiplayer was a lot more fun of an experience than single player. And part of the other thing is like, so I too chose warrior as the first thing that I picked. And you have basically no identification skill, which means that you can't level your identification skill, really. Like maybe it's hard to do it. So like I didn't even really understand how the system worked the first time I played because it was like, well, I just can't identify anything. And it makes me really think that they should more strongly push you towards some class as the first class that's like just adventurer. You've got well-rounded thing that like teaches you what the things of the game are. It should have an okay identification ability, should have a ranged weapon thing, just like a little bit of everything, and it should be bad at all of them a little bit. And so you don't play it play it beyond like the first couple of times because like, well, it's not good at any one thing, so you can't go super far with that.
But Colin,
it's a great idea.
Did you learn those things from the training academy?
What things?
The series of tutorials.
I mean, I learned how identification works, but I didn't like once I started playing the actual game, I'm like, well, I don't understand. How are you supposed to level this up? You level it up by identifying objects, correct? That's as far as I can tell, that's how you do it.
As far as I know,
have no identification skill, you can't identify something, so you can't level it up. So I mean, that's how I ended up dying in the first run that I did. Is I just on a whim equipped like a lockpick or no, it was like a gem, like a cursed gem, and I was just like, I don't know, just putting stuff on. It's like, well, now I can't unequip this. It's like, well, how am I supposed to know? So I was like, I basically can't find out any of the things that I'm picking up if they're good or not. And that was a very unfun experience as compared to when we all played together. I'm like, you guys are just like leaving stuff on the ground. I'm like, let me pick all of this up. And then at the end, I'm like, here's all of your good loot that I identified for you. And I found that that was fun. That was
for sure. The multiplayer like allows you to have a run where you are engaging with more of the systems and the systems are kind of complementing each other and you get a more full-fledged fun. I was describing it to someone today as like a chaotic fun experience because it's pretty it's pretty off the wall wild and sincerely pretty enjoyable. But Scott, you mentioned the tutorial. We need to talk more about the tutorial and how
but before you do that, Andrew, you've just been killed by a boulder.
Oh no, not again. Well, I gotta mute the podcast or the music I'm listening to so I can listen for that very specific cue. Which I'm really torn about the traps, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that. In general, I like traps. Oftentimes they're kind of underutilized in tabletop games. And, once you get used to the boulders, it's kind of exciting. It's kind of fun. Felt good to outrun a boulder. Anyway, the tutorials. All right. So I have a question. How many of the tutorials did everyone?
I think I did 10.
One mandatory one?
I think I did 10 of the tutorials.
All right,
I did the intro
stop.
4.
10 tutorials?
I think there's 12 there's 12 or 14 total, and like
that is too many. You gotta spread them out or something. You gotta figure something out. 12
fair,
is ridiculous. And real quick, sorry, Scott, I got it. This is very important. Before someone says, "Oh, well, your attention span is just too short," or "Oh, you're not putting in the effort to enjoy a game," if you die during a tutorial, which is very possible, it happened to me multiple times. Probable. You got to restart that tutorial module. Give me a break. Don't waste my time. What are you doing, game?
That was
super in there.
That was extremely frustrating. Like I'd be playing this on the bus on the Steam Deck, and it like, okay, I'm putting myself in a bad position by doing this. So this is mea culpa here. But I'm playing this game on mute on the bus on the Steam Deck, and like, going and like reading all the placards on the walls, and like they're like, "Hey, this is how you do this thing." Okay, great. Walk down this hallway and pull this lever to open the door. Pull the lever. A boulder comes down and rolls over me. I'm like, was that supposed to happen? Like, and then I have to like go back to the beginning, which is, I don't know, maybe like a 45-second restart. I'm just like, I gotta wait. I gotta go through the whole thing again, and going through 10 of these tutorial realms, like, so there's you boot up the game, and there's an option to like start an adventure and like go to tutorials directly, or when you start a game, like you can go off to the side to like a little tutorial, the hall of tutorials kind of, and you can go like one by one to see what's available, because there's like a shitload of game mechanics in this game. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's summoning, there's like NPC monster management, there's magic systems,
bartering,
there's alchemy, there's like merchant bartering, there's like all the stuff that you can think of doing in like your standard D&D tabletop session is here, except if you die, you have to start the whole tutorial over again. And the tutorials themselves like aren't super long. They're like maybe 5 minutes each if you know what you're doing. But the fact that like there's
still an hour of
right,
an hour of tutorials, folks.
Yeah, and if you are, one thing that like really bugged me was like, I'm going through, I think it was the Alchemist one. You're going through the Alchemist one, and there's like a lot to learn. There's a lot of potions, and there's a lot of reading of stuff on the walls. And you open up one gate, and a spider is coming out and chasing you. And you're like, okay, throw the potion to stun him. Like, okay, I got that part. Run around the corner. I'm like, okay, what do I got to do next? And I have like this panicky sense of like, I'm on a clock here because the spider is going to go unstunned here in a minute and come around the corner and eat me. What does this thing do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I fell in a pit and died. I'm like, okay, let's try it again. And eventually, like, you get to the point where like, okay, take the potion of levitation, and you're walking over this chasm, and then you're doing another thing. It's just like, it's too much. It's like, there's too much stuff, and I don't want to get good during the tutorial. Like, I appreciate the tutorials that are there. I think like, if the element of death,
the tutorial is for getting good.
Yeah, exactly.
You shouldn't have to get good to do the tutorial.
I think the fact that there's a like your best time for the hall of tutorials is kind of a warning sign of like, am I supposed, like, is this supposed to be a challenge? Like normally we call out when games do tutorialization very well. I think this game is trying to do it well, but it's making it too difficult. Like, the difficulty is getting in the way of me learning the systems. And I think the systems here are interesting. The alchemy one, like, you have your Ambilek, and you're like combining water with poison, and like, you're making like thunder potions. Like, this is cool. I would love to learn more about this without the fear of having like to die and then restart the whole thing all over again. And I feel like I'm just totally forgetting the whole system.
I agree. And I think on one of the very first tutorials, yeah, I had a similar experience. I was like, wait, did I miss something? I thought there was maybe another thing to check, and I like backtracked, and then I got like shot by an automated like turret or something and died instantly. I was like, oh, that's still there? Like, why? Okay, what? Time to go to the checkpoint. Oh no, back to the beginning. Yeah, look, I realize, I appreciate that there's a lot of information for the game to give you, but one of the, dare I say it, responsibilities of the game, of the designers, is if you have a lot of information, you need to find a way to organize and to dole out that information that is palatable. And what the system that they have here is not palatable.
Well, not palatable in what sense? I might fight you on this.
Pardon me. It is not easily consumed in a timely fashion.
To do it.
It is frustrating. It's time consuming. It's not a good setup. There should probably be, I don't know, like a tutorial dungeon or something where it's like it lets you play and enjoy the game in between the learning moments. Because hey, I'll admit it, like I'm a meathead FPS guy, and as soon as the tutorial pops up, I'm immediately I feel like a grade schooler, and I'm in a class that I don't of a subject I don't like, and I'm like, oh great, here we go.
don't know if
I'm
you like
it.
To...
No,
that's the thing is like that's why
I default to that. But yes,
you gotta layer it in.
Indeed, you gotta layer it in,
because that way you get a taste of the game. Do you like the game? Oh, you kind of like it a little bit, like alter a little.
Oh, do you like the gameplay? I see
what
you're saying, Will. Yes, absolutely. Indeed, I agree wholeheartedly. That being said, you can probably get away with like maybe the first couple of tutorials, and then like when you start doing runs and you're curious about another subject, you can pop back out and go to something. That's what I ended up doing. I did like the first 3 tutorials. And then I played for a bit, and then I went, all right, well, let's check out spellcasting. And so then I did this. So I suppose you can kind of self-manage and figure it out. But anyway, I think we've talked enough about this. Not great tutorials.
The problem, I think there's a problem here where like there's a lot of cool stuff in this game, but I never get a chance to interface with it because I keep dying in the first 5 levels. And then I have to like repeat the whole process all over again, going back to the start and being underleveled, and like the aspect of commanding like large armies of dudes like doesn't happen that often. And I feel like Andrew, like you weren't on the show when we covered Streets of Rogue, but did you ever like go back and toy around with that at all?
A teeny tiny bit.
A teeny tiny. So like a major component of that is like
the followers, and you recruit people, right?
Well, like emergent gameplay, I guess, where like you pick a class, and it's not even remotely the same aesthetic here, but like you pick a class, it's you know, there's a lot of like hustle and bustle going on, and there's like different systems that are, you know, available to like noodle and interact with, and seeing how those systems like, oh, this thing is on fire over here and it caused like a gas explosion and blew up this whole wall, like you were saying, like managed chaos in a way. And I feel like managed chaos was like the most fun part of this game when we tried doing a split screen session and an online co-op session. And our split screen session was 3 of us, which like I'm willing to like put this on me, where we were using, I don't know, like original Xbox 360 wireless controllers, and there was, for whatever reason, a button press was creating a second character that was controlling 2 characters at the same time, which was not the greatest experience. But after, what was it, like 30 minutes of
30 40 45 minutes, it was like ridiculous
tinkering with the controls. Again, I'm putting this on me because I think my controllers are just old.
It was definitely, as soon as we like started integrated the keyboard as the key element, because we tried all combination of controllers, like we ended with
2 wired controllers and a keyboard. And that was the winning ticket.
But there was like, once we finally got that going, I feel like there was an element of that kind of split screen controlled chaos that I haven't felt in like a long time, of like, oh my, you know, like the couch co-op kind of nature of it, I felt was immediately way more fun than just playing by myself and playing on mute on the Steam Deck. Not the best experience. But like, yeah, I think having like multiple people in a situation where like, oh, this thing is happening, you can kind of see it. It felt very much like a GoldenEye moment of like, oh, I'm watching this other person's screen.
You're showing your age, Scott.
Perfect Dark moment, Turok ? Where like, yeah, being able to see like, okay, Will's over here, he's doing this thing, and then like Colin dies and he's using his ghost to scout ahead, and we're like, all this information, like, okay, like this feels more like what the game was trying to do. And I feel like that's
just fundamentally easier.
It was way easier. And I think it really came to a head when we did 4-player co-op online, where everyone had their own monitor, everyone had their own mouse and keyboard. That felt like this is the way to play it. And
yeah, I would not play this game single player again, but I would play it with the 3 of you.
Totally.
Like, that was an enjoyable experience. I liked that game. I did not like the single player version.
And there was like craziness that was going on of like, you know, someone running out of food, so we had to like scour the level for food to give them, and then the minotaur was chasing us, and And then
the Zap Brigade.
The Zap Brigade came in to save the day, and I don't know
killed the Minotaur.
Yeah, like and
owned it.
I don't know. So good.
I don't know what triggered this event, but the fact that I had only seen something like this once in maybe like 10, 12 hours of play was like, I want more of this. This is like the kind of Streets of Roguiness like mania that I was looking for. Of like, there's like crazy stuff happening, and I'm just like barely keeping it under control. Like, yeah, sneaking in the shadows and managing hunger levels and scrolls of identification are okay, but like getting chased by the Minotaur and then having the army of zaps come around the corner and like literally zap it to death was like, whoa, fun.
Absolutely.
And then after that, we're in the transition zone from finally getting out of the mines. And do we go to the swamps, or do we see what's this buzzing sound behind this wall over here? Mine. A teleporter to a secret level, you say? Sure, let's try this. What's the worst that could happen? Getting sent to
get anything, right?
Getting sent to the Underworld, where you have all sorts of like islands of teleport shrines and shadows flying around attacking you. This was another thing that I thought was super fun because it was so unexpected.
Sure.
And like my expectation was, okay, we'll go to the swamp, and then after that, we'll kind of continue along the same progression. But having this kind of like zaniness pop up out of nowhere was a pleasant surprise, and I wish I had gotten more of that up to this point. But I felt like our adventure in the Underworld realm was a lot of fun. But eventually, you know, we were like, all right, we're getting rolled here. Let's go back to the swamps. Eventually, Will tests out the do not pull switch.
That worked out pretty well.
Well, we had the zaps with us, fortunately. Did we still have the zaps, or did the zaps get got?
I think the spiders.
By that point, most of the zaps were dead.
Yeah,
indeed. Well, I think we had maybe one or two left over. But anyway, yeah, we fought a giant army of spiders, which was triggered by the do not disturb. At some point, I as a drunken ninja, I just consumed alcohol because I had the hunger meter. I was given the job of lockpicking a treasure chest, which I thought was fun. It's like, well, I'm pretty buzzed, but I'll give it a shot. And after a few tries, yeah, all sorts of fun. All these random, zany, cool, unexpected events colliding and interacting in like a cool emergent gameplay experience. And does anyone remember how that run ended? After we conquered the Minotaur, after we were rescued by the Zap Brigade, after we traversed the Underworld, what then happened?
Well, it's important to note that once the Minotaur died in the mines, that did not preclude the Minotaur from coming back in the swamp to wreck our ship.
Indeed, the Minotaur came back and got his revenge, which even when we died, that was fun. It was like, oh, what a fun, fitting, like sort of, it's that story, that emergent story that I love to see in a good.
Yeah, we were all separated. That was the problem. Like, I think one of us was like far away. The three of us were at the exit.
Somebody,
like, we can't get out. We all get slayed by it.
I could have made it
down
to
the
the
last
end,
guy.
but I was weighed down by the chest of your shit. And I was trying to get away, and I was like, oh, I'll cross the water, and then maybe he won't be able to swim after me because some of the enemies won't go into water, but he can levitate across water, so he did in fact catch me.
Would you expect nothing less from a 3-story tall Minotaur that breaks the ceiling as he walks around?
Not only that, the Minotaur, I found out, can levetate. He can levitate.
Whoa.
Oh, just like straight up regular levitate?
Like I bought the DLC. I got was playing vampire. I used the levitate ability. It's like, a creature, you cannot follow me into the night. I can go places where, oh my god, no, it's fine. Second, maybe only to the Yeti. Talk about indicating your age. The Minotaur is an unstoppable, and he absolutely will not stop until you are dead.
The Zap's got him.
And that is both equal parts frustrating and exhilarating. Like when you get away from the Minotaur, it feels great. When he comes out of nowhere and squashes you instantly, that can be a bad feeling. But it's that's you kind of, with a game like this, that's sort of what you're signing up for, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's going to be ultra violent. It's going to be super what's the term? Insta-death is going to happen, and that is kind of unfortunately part of the agreement when you go in. Like, you can't have those highs without those lows.
Yeah, I just wish that like when you died and you restarted, it was just like, okay, oh, it's the mines again. Great. Like if there was
100%.
if there was like even like a palette swap of like it's the blue mines and there's like I don't know some
the wet mines.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
like that's another thing that Streets of
I
Rogue
agree
kinda
wholeheartedly.
does. Yeah, where it's like, you know, there's a little bit of a little bit of spice to that, just so that, you know, I can run the game for like 2 hours and like, oh, okay, you know, not have like the exact same experience.
Yeah, which is surprising since there is so much content in this game. Like it's kind of surprising that there isn't more variety in the starting level. That would really help and would help ease the the feel badness of dying and having to start over again. Like, and it goes back to, you know, the point I've made many times, which is at the core of a good roguelike is randomization, meaningful randomization. And that would really help the constant restarts and constant more palatable and more exciting if there were more random beginnings and events happening to spice up those first couple of levels.
Well, as a counterpoint to that, I'd say that like the idea, I think you die to a novel thing like once or twice, and then the idea is you just never die to that thing again, right? Like the boulder, like there's this one channel that goes to the teleporter room. Oh, you run down there, you learn, oh yeah, there's just a channel of boulders, and you just you know that they're coming, and so like that you just never do that again. And then like everything you do, like the mimics, you learn that okay, that's a possibility. You learn all the weird, stupid ways to die, and then you hopefully never die that way again. Like I know that and there's just like a whole bunch of unique ways to do this, but like the haunted castle I was at was level 21, legendary, almost everything. I'm feeling extremely overpowered, and like nothing can withstand anything that I'm doing. And I'm walking out to leave. I looted the place. I'm like, oh, there wasn't anything here. Okay, well, of course they're gonna have like 20 ghouls come up and just sprint at me from all directions. And it's just like there's no amount of fireball that doesn't have AoE that I can do to like carve a path through these guys. And so it's just like, okay, well, now I know that if I ever go to the haunted castle, there's going to be 20 ghouls that spawn as you like. It's just like the point I'm making here is that you eventually never, like in a whole run, you basically always get a little further every time. And so we're in the beginning phase where you're repeating a lot, but once you get the 10, 15, 20 hours, I'm sure you're progressing really far, and then you're not seeing the first zone quite as often. And so that sounds about right. I don't think it's like a fun thing though to like have stupid shit kill you. But you know, that's what this game is. It's not fun. I mean,
the real problem I think is not that you see the first realm a lot. Like I'm gonna, you know what, we gotta get it. We gotta get the obligatory Slay the Spire at least once per episode. Is
ding 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 ding.
When you're starting Slay the Spire or other roguelikes in general, let's say Hades, because it's on the mind because Hades 2 just came out. You see the first biome a whole lot as you're bad and you're getting good. But the first biome or the first stage or whatever is fun in and of itself.
Yeah, that's another way to do it.
Yeah,
it's
so
just
as
really
long as you're having fun wherever you are, that's fine. I think the biggest problem
unfortunately
with Barony is that you feel your lack of power when you're at a low level. You have lack of options, you have a lack of survivability. It's just not as fun, and you're in the most boring bland of the environments. Is like, it's a dungeon with rats and skeletons. It's like, cool, this has been done.
Yeah. And so, I think I want to call out like we kind of dunked on Shattered Pixel Dungeon a long time ago. And the more that I was playing Barony, like I went back into the Google sheet and I started like upping Shattered Pixel Dungeon's rank. So I'm like, you know, like it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And I think like, well, also we played it on phones at the time too, which probably wasn't doing it much service. But like I was like, you know what? Like the level design, like the random like level layouts of Shattered Pixel Dungeon gave me more agency of like opening a door and be like, okay, what do I got to work with here? I've got grass to break up line of sight. I've got like ways to like close a door and wait for an enemy to open the door and I get a sneak attack on them. Like, I have options. And then coming back to Barony, which thematically very similar. It's, you know, obviously real time versus turn-based, but it felt like it just didn't have any options. And it was just like, okay, you know, the first level in Shattered Pixel Dungeon, again, a very kind of like grimy, dungeony kind of mine experience. But I feel like there's more flavor and more interesting stuff happening. Like, oh, I can see that this room here is clearly a trap. I'm not going to go into this thing that has like a bunch of poison gas that's going to kill me. Or like, crucially, I don't think did any of us try this of like luring enemies in Barony over traps that we knew were there and have the trap kill them?
Fireball, just kill
I
everything.
think I did that. Oh no, wait, that was to one of my followers who got crushed by a boulder. No, I think one time, yes. I tried it a couple times. It only worked like once.
Yeah.
I think it happened to me just
on accident.
By accident.
So I'm glad you're bringing this up, Scott, because I wasn't totally sure how to explain, how to state this until you brought it up. Previously, I mentioned, hey, there's a lot going on in the game, but it's all these different systems. There is a lot of it, but it's all kind of ankle deep, you know? I wish it was there was a little bit more interest and a little more interaction between the systems, as you're saying. Things like in Shattered Pixel Dungeon, where it's like the doors can be used to your advantage. The traps can be used to your advantage, which technically they can be, but like they don't really seem very user friendly to do that. I was shocked that there was like no option to extinguish torches from a distance. I was shocked there was no way to light things on fire with the fire sources. There was a lot of like kind of basic logical gameplay jumps that I've seen in other games that weren't in Barony, and I was kind of surprised.
If there was a
the
dog
game
in
presents
Barony,
itself,
you would not be able to pet it.
Indeed, if there was a dog in Barony, you would not be able to pet it. The game, I think, is trying to be, I think somewhere in the design document, it probably mentions being an immersive sim. And it's not quite to that level because there's not enough like interesting player driven problem solving. I guess you can break down a door when it's locked. Like that's technically a thing that you can do in an immersive sim.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the Skyrim style, like you use the thing more and you level up that skill as you use it more aspect, which like
swimming.
Yeah, like, and you jump into like a river or something, you're bobbing up and down, it's like, your swimming increased. And I will say, like, this game's animation effects are very fun and charming. I think the UI is very good for what it's trying to accomplish. And you have like a cute little duck symbol, like duck for swimming, that pops up, and your one pops up to a 2. Very satisfying. But like, in service of what? Like, is there a way that I can beat the game by like maxing out my swimming?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is swimming useful at all?
I think it's just
Can
like
you drown? I don't think you can, right?
Swimming is an inconvenience in the biomes that have water. So if you're good at swimming, you are less inconvenienced by it, which is not great gameplay, in my opinion.
There may be more. I mean, there's that amulet of water breathing, and so I'm assuming that later there in a biome we didn't get to, there's a water world. But I don't know how that would work because there's not a Z dimension. I mean, I guess you do dip down one to get into the waters.
Well, I imagine there's probably monsters that could well, I'm scrolling through
Let's
the
assume, let's give
here.
the game the benefit of the doubt, and at some point swimming becomes interesting. I'm willing to give that to Barony. Like, yeah, maybe at some point. But for the majority of players, this is probably going to be their only interaction with it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's something missing about the level design that like it just doesn't have that element of like environmental puzzle solving. Like I think you see it in Dungeons of Dreadmore a lot. You see it in Shattered Pixel Dungeon, Eldritch to some extent. All previous episodes. We haven't gotten to it, but Rogue Fable 3 is another kind of similar dungeon crawler, traditional roguelike game. Dungeons, goblins, traps, etc., exits randomly placed, but there's more interesting stuff to do on the level, I guess. More cool set dressing, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Interesting.
Being able to, like, where's all the explosive barrels that I can blow up and like have those create holes, and then like the monster drops down the hole, kind of a thing. Like,
I hear you. I just wish, I wish there was a little more with some of these systems.
Maybe that's
including the levels. In general, though, I was pretty impressed with the procedural generation. It felt pretty like organic and generally interesting to explore. However, there are way too many closets, doors that lead to nothing. There's way too many, I'm going to break down this breakable wall and it leads to nothing, or it leads to a path that like I could already access. Maybe that gets better later in the game. I was also like, I was really missing like any type of like invisible walls or hidden walls. That's a Dungeons and Dragons classic, the secret door, the secret invisible door. And especially in like that first level, I was really craving that. Like I would, you know, check the whole level and be like, I wish there was something cool to find, or like, oh, this one torch. Now I'm just like throwing out all sorts of goofy ideas, but you know, again, just a little extra level of complexity in the level design, I think, really pushed this game to the next level.
Well, were there, Andrew, were there any workshop mods that address that?
Well, most of them are broken because of one of the latest updates. Great news. The Seinfeld mod works, where it plays the Seinfeld music sting when you die. I got that one to work. I got the one that replaces the soundtrack with there's so many of those mods where it's just like it's just a soundtrack rip from a different game. There was one graphics mod that I tried out and it like turned off pretty quickly because it wasn't to my liking. There are quite a few workshop mods that are quite sophisticated, but I was too lazy to try to figure out how to get them to work with the new update or the latest update. There's one that turns the game into like a sci-fi game, which looks really cool. And then the other one I was eyeballing is just like, you know, it's basically just like fan-made DLC, like, you know, more items, more levels, more stuff. Did anyone play with the DLC?
No.
I was pretty underwhelmed by it, I gotta say. It was fun playing as like the monster races, but I was kind of hoping for them to be like really OP, and they weren't that OP. I guess generally, I wouldn't say they're like a ripoff, but just like I was hoping for a little bit more, and perhaps I'm sure there's probably some DLC content in the later levels that I need.
Yeah, I mean it's a good thing to point out because I just mentioned Rogue Fable 3, like that has the option of like, you know, right out the gate having much more like mix and match options of like human cleric, human fighter, goblin cleric, goblin fighter, undead cleric, undead fighter kind of things, versus with this, yeah, like you have to go to the DLC to get it. But yeah, I was kind of expecting to be like, well, like maybe my problem with these melee classes is just that I need to switch to like, you know, the undead class, and then like, oh, undead melee is actually really good or something.
Maybe
a thick dwarf.
Sure. Extra dead. Which actually, pardon me, one correction. The vampire's blood spell attack is that's very OP. That is a ton of damage and basically insta-gives anything, at least initially. And when you're playing as a succubus or an incubus, you're of course allied to the succubi, which is great. So you can just get an army of succubus monsters who will then charm more monsters, and then you get a nice like kind of swarm. And that I think taps into the topic of like when the zaniness level is high and like the different zaniness sort of wild things are interacting. That's when the game is kind of at its best. I feel like. Yeah, Barony, good old Barony. I feel like earlier, Colin, you're like, oh, I'd be willing to play more multiplayer of this game. I think I definitely would take you up on that. But I also think I will play more single player of this game. My biggest problem is what we've already discussed, where it's like initially the first biome and the first few character levels are pretty boring. And you get into this vicious cycle of like, oh, I want to get to the fun part of the game. So you start going fast, and then you start rushing, and then you start making mistakes, and then you start dying. And what I have been doing quite a bit is just going into the console commands and just giving myself some levels. let's speed it up. Let's get to it. And the fact that I'm willing to put in the work to have more fun with the game, I think shows that there's definitely something to Barony, even for an FPS meathead such as myself.
All right, obligatory music. Andrew hated it. I thought it was serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, like I was kind of surprised when Andrew was saying like you were so turned off by the music, because I thought, like, I don't know, I didn't think it was like bad. I just thought it was kind of innocuous. Well, I will say, like, we had to turn the music off when playing when playing co-op, because there was just like, you have to listen for the audio cues of the sound, or the rats and the skeletons and the gnomes, particularly the gnomes.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like, the music, while fine in my opinion, like you have to like listen for so much other stuff. It just kind of gets in the way in that perspective.
I was perhaps a little harsh on the music. I don't think it's especially good, and at times I find it to be grating. Yeah, it's not the worst. And it is interesting that, like, in order to like play like peak Barony, to be like on your toes, you have to like switch the music off. Is kind of admittedly kind of funny. I think maybe here's the problem. I think I might be a bit jaded. Like, indie game soundtracks have gotten so good, like, over the years, like really great stuff. And if it's not an original soundtrack, there's a lot of indie devs go out and source music from like artists, full-time artists who aren't even necessarily making, music that's for a game. They're just trying to make the best music they can make. And I think that's probably part of it. This game, came out in 2015. So, I mean, I think perhaps the indie game production value and the scape was different.
I muted it right away, so I have nothing to contribute to that. I don't know how you guys deal with
as a tradition.
It's just annoying. If it's not some bebop jazz, really, it's not. If it ain't got that swing,
what's the point of living? Really,
it ain't got that swing. We need to play a game that has a jazz soundtrack. I feel
like the intro to our grog pods.
Indeed,
Scott's got some those together. Taste. I mean, I don't know why you've made that a recurring thing, but I mean, and I never originally listened to these podcasts, but I appreciate it regardless.
I mean, there was no way I could like figure out a way to get an intro theme to this podcast that really matches the breadth and depth of such a genre, and as something as like, as more people will find that like you can't get agreement on as jazz, where like something so big and so deep and so complicated
and divisive. And it's, I mean, jazz is the roguelike of music.
100%. Sure.
Yeah, procedurally generated by your brain. Yep. It's all about playing the wrong notes.
Yeah. Do we want to jump into rankings?
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah, let's have Andrew kick us off this time.
5.75.
Okay.
No, here, hold on. I got a little more to this. I think it's definitely an above average game. I think I'll probably play more of it. I say that a lot with games on this podcast. Like, yeah, I think I'll probably play more. And it's not super, that doesn't always end up being the case. But with this, I'm fairly confident I will play more of it. Right before we recorded, a friend of mine messaged me and said, "Hey, I saw you're playing Barony." And specifically, let's see here. The comment was, "That game is fucking fun." And I was like, "Whoa, all right. Well, I need to get more specific information." And I said, "All right, look, about to record this podcast. Could you tell me in a sentence, what makes Barony good?" So I'm gonna paraphrase that quote here. Barony's cute retro presentation hides an intriguing complexity that keeps you coming back in search of that perfect run, while the procedurally generated maps keep the experience fresh and the goal elusive. It gets even better with a game night with friends. Cutie face emoji. And I think I basically agree with all of that. The cutesy presentation, I think, works very well. The complexity, again, I wish there was just a little more complex. And I wish those tutorials were better presented. And the procedural generation, again, speaks to what I look for. The core thing that I look for is meaningful randomization. And I think the procedural generation in this game is overall pretty impressive. Last point, yeah, the game night with friends, it was really a blast playing. We only played for like an hour and we only did one run. Like, that one run was incredibly fulfilling despite it ending so tragically. So it's definitely an above average game. I think if I was ranking this just purely based on like how roguey the game is, it would get a super high like rating. Like I think this is a pretty dang good roguelike. It does fall a little bit down just because it doesn't quite appeal to my specific like, you know, shooter sensibilities. And 1,000 pardons for the wordiness. Real quick, I just wanted to mention my last run that I did before we got on to record was I fired up the Doom 2 soundtrack and I went into the console and I gave myself all the best ranged weapons. I'm talking about the magical there's like a specific named artifact bow that I can't remember the name of. I'm talking about silver shurikens. I'm talking about a crossbow with a quiver of improved quick shot ammo, spring shot ammo, and fired up that Doom soundtrack, and I was just running around just blasting goblins, and it was a heck of a.
Then a boulder landed on you, and all your weapons did nothing to save you.
Actually, wouldn't you believe it? Wouldn't you believe it that I got got by a scorpion? I got paralyzed by the scorpion, and it stun locked me, and I wasn't even that mad about it. So there you go. There's fun to be had. Sometimes, if you're like me, you got to work for it. And that is the end of it. I nominate Colin to talk next.
I'm going to give it a 6.5. I had it. I almost gave it a 7, but then I looked at the other games that had given it a 7. I was like, I can't. I don't think that the single player is particularly enjoyable, but I did enjoy playing it with friends. I think it was a fun party game. But if you are looking for a single player adventure, you could probably find something better. That's it. 6.5.
Well, I think we're gonna land pretty close then. I think we're all pretty tightly grouped there because I'm coming in at a what did I put there? 6.0. As a 5.5, 6.0, something in that range right there. Yeah, if it wasn't for like playing with y'all, this would have been a yep, I'm over it right away sort of thing. But there was something somewhat magical about 3 of you being dead. Or excuse me, I think it was 2. I think when we were in person, 2 of you were dead, and there was like there's the gnomes, the chipchaps, all in the middle.
That was good.
And like this, and I'm sitting in a corner charging up my mana. A gnome turns, I unleash the rest of my ammo, and then I'm running out to the exit. All these things are chasing me, no chance, and we got out, and then that was a really nice little epic moment, but. For all the reasons we've chatted about, just play Minecraft. I mean, really, it's you'll get a much more fulfilling experience. It's the same sort of combat if you go down into a mine or something. So, it's a meh.
Fundamentally different game.
For me, I guess I'll round us out. I gave this game the highest ranking. I gave it a 7. I think I wound up pushing my Shattered Pixel Dungeon rating up higher the more that I played this game, because I was like, there's stuff about Shattered Pixel Dungeon.
Not how ratings work.
No,
I have to stop. This is a terrible way.
As the dictator in chief of the podcast, I am decreeing that we can change our ratings at any time.
Well, your average score is higher than everyone else. I feel like you're just playing real. I mean, you're so soft.
I have to. I have to be the nice guy of the podcast, but yeah, I think like Barony was going to be ranked way worse than a 7 up until we had those co-op sets, and I think that's what really brought it together was like the barely controlled chaos of like the minotaurs hunting you down. You got to sprint to the exit. You have 3 Pac-Man ghosts like leading the way and like pushing the enemies out of the way so you can survive another floor. Like there was a lot of fun and charm in that. I think the game has like a really well done interface for controller input. I don't think it's the best way to play this game particularly, but I do appreciate that there's a lot of effort for like hotbar selection stuff on a controller, which I don't see very often. I think there's some bad stuff about like melee I think is objectively bad in this game. The first level is like way too hard. Like my note here is, what is this, Returnal? Level variety, all this stuff like I was hoping mods could fix or add to, but didn't really seem like it was there. But the stuff that's good about this game, I like the tutorial zones in theory. I just wish they weren't so brutal for whatever reason. There's a lot of interesting mechanics like alchemy and like spell casting and stuff, and NPC management, which I never thought I would see in a game like this. But yeah, co-op 100% the way to go. 7 out of 10 for me. And yeah, that's gonna land Barony right next to Shattered Pixel Dungeon in our overall rankings, which I feel is apropos. Yeah, Barony in a nutshell. If you want some similar games to Barony, this is my best guess because there's really not a whole lot of first-person dungeon crawling roguelike games out there. But my best guess is scrounging this list. I mentioned a lot about Shattered Pixel Dungeon. I think that has a lot of similar themes. Eldritch, we talked about previous episode. Andrew, your VR headset, I imagine, would get an interesting workout with the game Ancient Dungeon, which very much has that kind of Barony vibe to it. But I wonder if that has more of like the environmental like set dressing that we're looking for. I'm probably one of like only 10 people on Earth who's played Rogue-FP, which is the first person shooter version of the OG 1980 Rogue. A lot of interesting similarities between Barony and Rogue FP, I think. Mortal Sin, I think, is like, what if Barony was only like melee stuff but done better? And then some other ones that are more kind of like, yeah, this is more like in the Barony vibe, I think, are Delver, Slasher's Keep, Unexplored, and I think I'm pronouncing this right, Vagante? I think those are more along the lines of like your brutal, traditional-ish roguelike experience with dungeon crawling. Give those a look. And while we still got time here before we fully wind down, we have a listener letter written in from
not just any listener,
from a previous episode on our coverage of our Wildermyth episode. One of the developers, Trico Pep, has written in and says, lovely review. Thoroughly enjoyed listening, even if it pains me when players end up skipping the story. There's a lot of hero aspects that get referenced in dialogue and have specific events associated with them that try to tie the individual story beats into a cohesive whole. Often with transformations, NPC mentioning a hero's wolf head in passing, fire-armed hero getting an extra choice when encountering an icy NPC, etc. But they're all handwritten, so it can be hard to make enough to have a consistently strong impact. And many of them are subtle enough that they can be easy to miss. They go on to say, probably worth noting our upcoming DLC, The Omen Road, which releases May 16th, leans even heavier into the roguelike label, removing the story and overland aspects entirely for a purely combat-focused experience. Thanks again for playing and for the review. Well, thank you, Treco Pep, for writing in to the podcast. Hopefully we weren't too brutal in our coverage of Wildermyth. And yeah, I think like all the stuff that we were kind of lamenting about the overworld from Wildermyth at the time, like the DLC stuff for this Omen Road expansion looks super cool. I'm very interested in checking it out. So thank you for
a lovely letter. What a deal. And I can imagine that, yeah, it is extremely painful to have put in handcrafted bespoke details that are completely best details that specifically are based on like, player the specific character, choices and design and everything.
Well, I feel and I feel like
we fair enough.
For Wildermyth more than most, the all devs go to heaven. Like, I truly respect the effort that's been put into Wildermyth. Like, I picked it. It was my choice, and because I want it to be good. I want them or someone like them to succeed because it's the game that I want to play. So.
And for how much complaining we did, it's almost like they developed a DLC specifically for our pain points of like, oh, you guys want an FTL style branching mode? Well, here you go. Quit complaining. So we got
The Omen Road was the name of that DLC.
Yeah, Omen Road, May 16th.
Okay, coming down the pike
to check it out. If you want to write into the show for whatever reason, maybe we've bashed your game too hard. grogpodzone@gmail.com. Send us your emails in through there. We are on the Fediverse, grogpod@gamedev.place, and grogpod.zone is our website with all of our rankings and other nonsense and data and stuff. But nobody cares about that. What everyone really cares about is the game that Will is going to pick for our
I've got a
next
winner.
game to review. And Will sat through a lot of very, very patiently sat through some games since our heroic Balatro episode. And so he's had plenty of time to think about what he wants to pick next.
That's right. I mean, I spent probably 3 hours a day trying to figure out which game. I went through and I played a whole bunch of games. I wanted to make sure that something fresh that I haven't played too much of, but like, as much as I want to say, let's play Slay the Spire or Downfall, it's let's gotta save that for like our 100th episode or something. But I ended up going with a game I'd never played before, but the Balatro creator mentioned in some, I don't remember exactly where, like a bunch of games that he had played. One was SNKRX. I don't know how to pronounce that. I played that today. Fun game. And definitely roguelite. But Lone Star was another one mentioned. And I gotta say, Lone Star, it's got all the ingredients of a great game. And so I went through and I played a game today. And well, my challenge to everyone else here, unless you've already played it, is I went ahead and beat it on the first try.
Whoa.
So I'm throwing the gauntlet down. All of my Slay the Spire turn-based strategy came to help me out a lot here, and I'm curious to see how you all do. But I think it was really fun, and I'm excited to see if there's more depth. And if not, that's fine too. I think Hades 2 was my second choice, but I just feel like I'm gonna need more than 2 weeks to really dig into Hades 2, and so I'm gonna try and line it up for a week where I know I won't be here. And we just talked about a game before this where I know I won't be here for that one, so hopefully we can well, you can see what that is in the future. But Lone Star, that's the pick.
Exciting times. Well, to play us out from this episode, some background music as you are haggling with Emergent for a better price on a Spriggan hat, while zombies and scorpions and minotaurs are beating down the door trying to get at you.